Good evening, everybody. My apologies for the moving from room to room, but maybe you got a little exercise. But this is much more comfortable. So sorry if the AC is not working so well. Still, we have such a brilliant lecture today. I think we do deserve the bigger space and you all should be more comfortable. Dr. Cyril Vijayasundara is currently the acting director and research professor at the National Institute of Fundamental Studies in Kandy. He is a botanist, educated at Peradeniya and City University of New York. He served as Director General of the Department of National Botanical Gardens from 2006 to 2015, and he is really a prolific writer. He has produced over 85 journal publications, 120 conference papers, 10 books, with an H index of 25 and more than 3,800 citations. Nationally, he contributed to establishing new botanic gardens in Mirijaville and Illukovita, founded a floriculture school and development program, and served on numerous scientific and environmental committees. He has also been actively involved in Sri Lanka's university system through teaching, supervision of postgraduate research and governance roles, and was elected a Fellow of the National Academy of Sciences of Sri Lanka in 2006 by receiving multiple presidential research awards. I first met Dr. Cyril when we were working on a Gardens of Lanka book with Lakshman Nadraja, and he opened my eyes to the wonders of Peradeniya Botanical Gardens, which I would say is surely a national treasure. And he explained why it carries the name of Royal Botanical Gardens, nothing to do with the colonial heritage, but because it dates back to 1371 when King Vikramabahu kept court at Peradeniya and so on. And several other kings after that also supported this. In fact, I was sad to hear of the damage done with Ditwa. And Dr. Cyril, if you could let us know, I don't know how the water from that river could come up so high, because Peradeniya Gardens was situated on a high ground, and whether they have been able to restore some of that damage. I wish to recall also Dr. Cyril's contribution to the National Trust. He, together with Sriyani Mittapala and Janaki Galapati, authored two beautiful coffee table books published by the National Trust, Grown in Sri Lanka and Flowering Plants, which recall that this country is one of the world's most biologically rich countries, and despite its small size, supports an extraordinary diversity of plant life. The National Trust has organized visits to Sitavaka, and I think that's where you practice ex situ conservation, and your initiative is flourishing. I read recently of a new botanical garden to be set up in Vaunia, and many of us have seen Dr. Cyril on TV, listened to his compelling accounts. For instance, I'll never forget his program on the Nilu in bloom in Horton Plains and other special plants. We are very thankful to him that he has traveled from Kandy to be with us tonight, and it gives me great pride to invite this legendary figure, a very special person, to give his lecture on cultivating biodiversity, harnessing Sri Lanka's amazing plant wealth. Thank you.
In 2011, I gave a talk at the National Trust when we were launching one of the books she mentioned, Flowering Plants of Sri Lanka. So after 15 years, I'm back again to talk about little not exactly the same, but a related subject. So the topic today is cultivating biodiversity, mostly plants. So when you talk about plants, there are different types of plants. Broadly, we can say that in this country we have alien plants, naturalized plants, native plants, and endemic plants. So the aliens are actually plants that have come from outside. They can be species, subspecies, or lower taxa introduced outside their natural range, and this includes any part, gamete, or propagule of any plant matter, plant organism. So these are organisms or plants that have come from outside, aliens. If someone asks me how many alien plants we have in the country, no one can answer it. If you go to the airport tonight around 12 o'clock, midnight, and check the bags of the people who are coming from Thailand or any other South Asian country, you will see a couple of new plants coming in every day. And if you go to Dietavuyana, you will see so many unknown plants. No one knows where they are from and what they are, and all sorts of plants. With all the regulations we have, Fauna and Flora Protection Act, Plant Quarantine Act, Plant Protection Act, this and that, everything, but plants keep coming in. So the number of alien plants are increasing by the day. So there's no exact number of alien plants. But then we should not forget that our principal economic crops, our tastiest fruits, our best shade trees, our most beautiful flowering trees, our major vegetables, and our best fodders, they are all introduced, all aliens. And our most venerated trees, a gentleman was asking me about that a short while ago, the sacred bow tree is also an alien. It was introduced about 2,300 or 2,600 years, I think, years ago from India, alien plant. But then there are some plants which are naturalized, almost like Bhumiputra. They have come from some other country and now they are naturalized. Not doing any harm, but they are naturalized, like Pol Puak and all that. So there are so many such plants which have come and naturalized. So any alien species that reproduce and sustain populations without help of humans are considered as naturalized plants. So the general definition is that if those population can survive at least 10 years without any support from humans, that means they are settled. So they are kind of naturalized. There are about 200 well-known naturalized species, naturalized plant species, and most of them are actually, if you look at this histogram or the graphical representation, we see the tallest one is the one below that you see American. So most of those naturalized plants are from tropical America. There are plants related to India, Malaysia, and all other parts, but the majority are related to they are having some tropical American origin. Now then we have the native species, indigenous species. Those are actually plants that have come without help of man. They are not having any anthropogenic origin. They are plants that have come from some other ways. So how do you know whether a plant is an introduced plant or native plant? An old naturalized plant or a native plant? So there are 8 criteria you can use to find out whether a plant is native or naturalized or alien. So we can use fossil evidence, historical evidence, habitat information, geographical distribution, frequency of known naturalization, that is again historical data, genetic diversity, which you can find out by doing PCR and various other molecular work, reproductive pattern and possible means of introduction, all this historical information. By going through all these, maybe you can find out whether a particular plant is native or not. I remember once there was a big debate about the common yellow bamboo, kahauna. A lot of people thought that it's not a native plant. But some time back, it was published in Spoilia silinica or something, they found that it's a native plant, by studying some of those going through some of those criteria, it was found out that it's not a introduced plant. So there are various ways through which you can find out the nativity of a species. This is a paper, landmark paper by Webb, published in 1985. Now, there are about 3,000 flowering plant species. I will give the latest, not the exact number, latest documented number, but that also changes. I'll tell you why, and I will give a clue and give some more, insights about that, about the exact number. Now, those species are having various affinities. Some are our own plants, right? Sri Lankan. And then there are plants that are having some affinities to India, Indo-Sri Lankan. And some are having Himalayan affinities. And some are having some links with Malaysia, because you remember our geological history, we were connected to Gondwanaland, we were part of Gondwanaland, and then plates separated, and the Indian subcontinent, the Deccan plate, got detached from Gondwanaland and moved towards north, and then we were not connected to anywhere in the no man's land in the ocean some long time, and then also when we got connected to the Laurasian plate, of course Himalaya and all these things happened, and then plants came from Malaysia to Indian subcontinent, and Indians in India, mainland India, to our country. So there are so many exchanges, a lot of theories, and there are a lot of evidence for that. And in 2016, we found a fern in Tabover called Glossopteris, and that fern actually is the link, because that fern is found in all the countries of the Gondwana, even in the Arctic, Australia, everywhere. And then in Tabover, we also found that. That means we all connected millions of years ago. And then, of course, we were also connected to Africa. So we have African affinities, plants with African affinities, and also cosmopolitan or pantropic plants. But then if you look at the families, genera and species, very little you have when we come to families. Most of the families are having peninsular Indian connections. If you go to genera and species, you have not a lot, but a few non-peninsular species as well, but majority are peninsular species. And then endemics, plants that were originated in this country. When you say endemics, a lot of people think that endemics are the plants that are found only in Sri Lanka and nowhere else. Can be true in many cases, but the endemics are the ones that were originated in this country. So they came up and they originated in the country. And some of the species we find in our country are also referred to as point endemics, meaning that they are found in a very small area. Now, for example, if you go to Walawata Vaturana, near Bulasingala, there are a few plants, at least two well-known plants, and those are found only in that about 30 perch land. Nowhere else on earth. Horowal, Stemanoporus mooney, and Suanda, very close related to our national tree, Na. Those two species are endemic species, found only in that particular area on earth. And also in Horton Plains or some other places also there are some plants that were found only in that area. So those are point endemics. So that is why our country is very special, although geographically, area-wise, we are a very small country. In some world maps, if you do a world map like this, you don't even see Sri Lanka is a dot. So even in this very small area, we have this many species. We have 50% of all the flowering plant families recorded in the world in this country. More than 80% of all flowering plant orders in the country, in the world, we have in this country. And about close to 30% of our indigenous species are endemic to Sri Lanka. And there are so many records, like these cricket things. I can talk about many records of Sri Lankan related to Sri Lankan plants. So endemics are very important. They're unique, and there are some places where they are found only in those areas. And I usually, change subjects very frequently. If I am to change track, in the morning I had a discussion with some people, some journalists who are working on climate change. And then also I talked about the impact of cyclone Nitra. And then when you overlay the incidence of landslides and the distribution of those point endemics, you see many of those critical areas are affected. So you don't know how much of our biodiversity was destroyed because of the landslides. Because after the Nitra, people are only talking about the loss of human life and property, but then I actually waited about 3-4 weeks before breaking that to the news media, because if I talk about biodiversity, people will kill me, because now you see a lot of people have died and property is lost, and you talk about the little insects and birds and all that, plants and fish, and some habitats of some barbs like Asoka barb, that habitat was gone. So there are so many very serious incidents, cases of damages to our endemic species, plants and animals, both due to extreme climatic events. We don't know what's in for our biodiversity with the El Nino, whatever, all these extreme events. So there are very interesting and also very beautiful endemic species of flowering plants in our country. This is Randotalu. I'm sure many of you have heard of this plant, and I don't know how many of you have offered this to the temples. That has become a trend, and even some presidents have offered that in spite of all the protests from the environmentalists. And then this is Sophora rubriflora. I specifically brought this up because this was recorded last in the Dikwal area about 150 years ago. After that, we have not seen it. Last recorded locality was Dikwal, and we have that in the Botanic gardens. So this is one of the things that I'm going to highlight. So it's a beautiful plant. And also, this is another beautiful plant. These are kind of plants we don't normally see. That's why I brought it up. This is Henkelia moni, an endemic plant, beautiful plant. And also we have Gymnostachyium. There are 4 species of this genus. This one, of course, horrible nose, Vesakmal or Dendrobium macati. And this is another plant. Small size tree, a medium sized tree, with flowers of this size, beautiful red flowers, slightly bigger than Nar flowers, beautiful red flowers. And it's like close to camellia in the tea family. And so these are the kind of plants that you can grow in your home garden, and if you are in the mid-country, you're more sub-montane, not in Colombo. This is a nice plant to be grown as an ornamental. So there are such beautiful endemics, and then those are actually, many of those important plants are vascular plants. That means in their body, in the stem, they have vascular bundles transporting water and food, xylem and phloem. I'm sure you may have heard those things. These are vascular tissues in the body. Not all the plants have vascular bundles, only ferns and seed plants have vascular bundles. There are lower forms of life like bryophytes and fungi and all sorts of things. They don't have vascular bundles. So these ferns and seed plants have vascular tissues, and ferns are also called pteridophytes. Seed plants, there are 2 main types. One type has seeds inside the fruit, and the other type has seeds outside the fruit. Don't think that kaju is like that. So if someone asks me about that, I'll explain later. But that is not a good example for seeds outside, because what you see as the fruit is actually not the fruit. Is actually the swollen stalk. Anyway, so in the case of kaju, now seed plants are the normal flowering plant. The flowering plants are one group under seed plants, and the other type is the one where seed is outside. Those conifers, cycads, and all that, all these araucarias and all these beautiful temperate plants are actually gymnosperms. So pteridophytes, we have we have 350 species recorded. This is the latest data because we did our national red list in 2020. Last red list was done in 2020. So they are the number of pteridophytes or fern species was listed as 350. We have 350 species of ferns in the country. And then gymnosperms, so the plants where the seeds outside the fruit, there are only two, Cycas nathosti and Cycas seylanica. Some of you may have learned in your advanced level days at least about Cycas cercinalis, which is actually not in Sri Lanka. It's a wrong identification. What we have is Cycas nathosti, Madu. And then there's another species, Mahamadu, Cycas seylanica, which is found in the southwestern coastal areas, and many of the populations were destroyed due to tsunami. So this is a critically endangered plant. So we only have those two species. Both are Cycas species. Flowering plants, latest data recorded, latest documented data shows that we have 186 families, 3087 species, and 863 of those species are endemic to our country. But then came Himesh Jaisim, and he did extensive field studies and all that, and I think he gave a talk last time, right? So he may have shown that book also. He has recorded 210 new. So we have to add that 210 to these 3087 species, and not all 210 are native. There are about some about 75 or 50 species that are new introductions. Now they are actually not endemic. They are native but not endemic. So endemics, he says about 150 or so. So if you add that 150 to 860, it goes past 1000. And he said there are some more even after the publication of this book. So then this will reach 1500. Then we can hit the jackpot, because I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this, Sri Lanka being classified as a biodiversity hotspot, right? So there are two criteria you have to satisfy to be qualified to be called a biodiversity hotspot. One criterion is that you should have 1500 or more vascular plant species. So with Himesh's data, I'm sure very soon we will go past 1500. And then more than 70% of our vegetation has to be destroyed. That of course we have. But now when you talk about Sri Lanka as a biodiversity hotspot, they say Sri Lanka and Western Ghats, right? Because Sri Lanka alone will not be qualified because we only have less than 900 endemic species. So we don't have 1500 species. That's why we combine with Western Ghats, and then collectively or together we form a biodiversity hotspot. It's like forming the Colombo Municipal Council, right? So getting other parties also to vote. So here now with Himesh's data, I'm sure we'll be able to stand alone. We can become a biodiversity hotspot on our own. And there are about 15 endemic genera. Unfortunately, we don't have a single endemic family. But there are 15 endemic genera. Those genera are found only in this country. Endemic. Now, this is the sad story. According to our red list surveys, 2 species are already extinct. 2 species. And 2 species survive only in cultivation. They are called extinct in the wild. They are extinct in the wild but only in cultivation, thanks to Botanic Gardens. And then there are 128 species that are considered possibly extinct. right? 120 species possibly extinct, and out of that about 54 are endemic. As I mentioned, did I mention that 48% of our flowering plants are threatened, 48.5, and about 58% of the fern species are also threatened. And these are indigenous species, but then if you think about the endemic species, 60% of the endemic flowering plant species are threatened. 60% of our endemic flowering plant species are threatened, and 66% of fern species, endemic fern species are threatened. So these show that our vascular plants are in danger, majority, more than 50%, right? So this is a very serious situation. Now, all we talk about our conservation and all that, we have not done our job. We were unable to protect our biodiversity, right? Now, how do we protect our diversity? How do we conserve our diversity? The best option is to conserve the ecosystems. We go and see the plants in nature, and then we protect those natural habitats so that they will be preserved, right? So that is the best thing you can do. Now, when the British people did their first forest survey in 1880, about 80% of our land was under natural vegetation. So no one can talk about any threats or anything, because much of our land was under natural forest. But now it's in 20-something%. So we have to at least safeguard the remaining natural forest or natural vegetation, so that the native plants will be preserved, native plants and animals, biodiversity. But then with all that, with all the efforts by the Department of Forest Conservation and Department of Wildlife Conservation, close to 50% of our flowering plants are threatened. More than 60% of our endemic plants, both ferns and indigenous flowering plants, are threatened. Now this map shows the areas protected by Forest Department and the Wildlife Department. The green areas are protected by the Forest Department, and the purple areas or the violet colored areas are protected by the Wildlife Department. So altogether, 29% of our land, at least on paper, are protected. So with all that, we have that alarming figure of the threatened numbers of threatened plant species. Now, if that is the case, what is the other option? What is the other thing you can do? What is the other major thing you can do? One thing you can do is cultivating biodiversity. So this is the talk I am going to deliver today at this place, and that is also called ex situ conservation, conserving outside, conserving the diversity, conserving the biodiversity outside the original habitat. So this involves collecting, handling and management of living germplasm research, including storage, regeneration and reintroduction, all sorts of all the business regarding conserving outside the native habitats. Cultivating. You cultivate, right? Now, British people did a wonderful job in that too. In 1821, they started Botanic Gardens at Peradeniya, 147-acre land near Kandy. And also in 1861, they started the Haggala near Noreliya. Originally 550 acres, but only about 65 acres developed. Much of the rest are all encroached. And in 1876, they started the Henrathkoda Botanic Gardens near Gampaha. But it was actually around 20-something acres, but I added another 7 acres, and now it's about 36 acres. So those 3 gardens were the ones that were started by the British. And then if you look at them, You see, Peradeniya is the jewel in the crown, and there are about 4,000 plant species conserved there. Not all native, only very little proportion of these plants are native. Much of the plants you find in Peradeniya gardens are all exotic because those are brought for a purpose. That's a different topic, I don't want to go into details. But then there are about 4,000 odd species. Peradeniya gardens has more species than entire country of Sri Lanka. That is very interesting because it's like a nuclear reactor, very concentrated diversity. So there are so many endemic and threatened plants, and there are some plants that are extinct in the wild. So I showed one plant, that Sophora rubriflora. So that is conserved in Peradeniya. That was collected more than 200 years ago, and it's in Peradeniya, nowhere else. Original habitats are all gone. And not only that, there are a few other species also. They were conserved in Peradeniya gardens, and they are only conserved ex situ outside the native habitats. So they are listed as extinct in the wild. That's a category also, IUCN category EW, extinct in the wild. So if not Peradeniya, if the botanic gardens are not there, they are all gone. They are like dodo, no more. Right? So the botanic gardens has that important function. Other than giving, providing a nice place for the flowers to, come and have a nice time, they also do a lot of conservation work, a lot of things, which I don't want to go into detail. And then also Haggala again has about 2,000 species, mostly montane and sub-montane, endemic plants also. And then Henrathgoda doesn't have that many species, but it also has about 1,000 species, specializes in medicinal plants, tropical fruit crops, and economically important plants. So that's also close to Colombo, doing a very good purpose. I remember once I was taking a group of friends, including one very well-known scientist from Ireland, and I don't know, some of you may have gone around the gardens with me. So when I take people around, I explain, I tell stories, and I have so many things to tell. All the stories about plants, buildings, and roads, and historical anecdotes, and all sorts of things. And then having gone through the gardens, and at the end of so I showed them, now this is the building constructed by Dr. J.C. Willis in 1901, and then all the other stories. And then this is the one built by G.H.K. Thwaites, George Henrik Thwaites in 1861, still standing, and all sorts of stories. And this building was built by J.C. Willis, and the floor plan of this building was published in Nature in 1899, all those stories. And then at the end of the tour, he asked me, "What have you done?" So kind of Reddy Galavena Prashne. So then that actually struck me, and I also that, having stayed that many years, my contribution was very marginal. Right? So I was looking for some meaningful work, and then it occurred to me, actually I had two career goals, and both career goals I achieved. One was to separate botanic gardens from Department of Agriculture and create an independent department of botanic gardens, which I did, and also create botanic gardens during our lifetime after the British. So I was looking for a site for a botanic gardens in the dry zone. Now if you look at the distribution of botanic gardens in the country, you see Peradeniya, Haggala, and Gampaha are located in 3 different floristic regions. There are about 15 floristic regions in the country. These were actually identified or recognized by 2 of my gurus, Professor Savitri Gunatilaka and Nimal Gunatilaka and Peter Ashton. So they have divided Sri Lanka into 15 floral regions, floristic regions. They are not climatic areas, right? They are areas which have specific, special forest plant communities. So each of these places have their own kind of unique floristic compositions. Now, if you take the floristic region 15, that is Horton Plains. Horton Plains itself is a floristic region. The type of plant communities you get in the Horton Plains, you don't get anywhere else. So like that. So there are 15 floristic regions, and luckily, Peradini, Haggala and Gampaha located in 3 different floristic regions. So then we were thinking of having botanic gardens in other floristic regions also, not all, but at least in major floristic regions. And the first thing I selected was the dry zone. Right? We don't have a single botanic garden in dry zone. And then I was looking for a site, and it's a long story, I don't want to discuss that, but I selected the place, and then that was in the driest area, most arid part of the country, which has a very, very, very low rainfall, and temperatures also very high. And when I told that to few of my colleagues, including some professors in botany, various universities, they said, are you mad? Can you do this in this area? You can't, what can you grow there? And they actually discouraged me. And there are so many criticisms, and then and one other, the major criticism, some of you maybe, but more than half of you also may be having that opinion, that they thought that is a political agenda, right? Because of the geographical location and the affinity to a certain family. It had nothing to do with it. It's Cyril Vijayasundara who selected that place without any influence or anything from any party or any family. So we selected the place in Mirijjivila. The main purpose was to showcase and conserve dry and arid zone species, to cultivate diversity of the dry zone. And then I was fortunate to get 300 acres. And at that time, Hambantota was a very dynamic area with so many new development projects coming in. So I was lucky to get 300 acres in an area which was earmarked for a oil refinery. That 1,000-acre area was selected or identified for an oil refinery, and I managed to get 300 out of that 1,000 acres. Now, that's a very interesting thing, because now just imagine you trying to get 147 acres from Kandy, flat land now. Right? Now, Peradeniya was created in 1821, 147 acres of flat land in Kandy. You can't do it now. So, luckily, while Hambantota was developing with all the Shangri-La and port and airport and other things, I managed to get 300 acres, and that was in 2006. If you look at the climate of that place, it's very, very low rainfall. Only during certain time of the year only you get some rain, and then the temperature is also very high, and the land has the plan something like this, contours. Only very few areas had a little high ground, the dark red areas, but much of the land was flat, and there was a road. The main road going by on the eastern side is the famous Ambilipiti Hambantota road, popularly known as Adisiye Para, and there's another road going towards Baragama, this road, and then this road actually is a road going to the village through the land. So I thought of, since there's a demarcation, I thought of using this land for building quarters and other, amenities for the staff, and then reserving this area for the gardens proper. So we are using, developing buildings, mostly residential facilities in this area. And this is the Baragama road I was talking to you about, just a road in a very, very dry country, all the scrub jungle like this. And then inside the land there were so many slash and burn cultivations, Chena lands, these are all Chena lands. There are people cultivating chili and various other other field crops. And then, so there were few neem trees, and the rest of the area was just scrub jungle, nothing. And then all termites, and when you look at that, people would think that what can you do that there, nothing you can grow. And then this is the Varagam road, this is the traffic you had those days. And there was a man who was making bricks in a small place within the site, and he had a water hole he has developed for brick making. And then I selected that site to have a kind of office, and then use some of the unfinished bricks also. So this is how we started, and this little water hole looks like this now. That's a different story. So we started that place, and then did some watering, and a small hut was made using some used building materials. We brought from Peradeniya some sheets and some broken windows and stuff. And then this house, this hut was prepared, and we even used rainwater harvesting and all that. This was the hut. And then also we got the periphery demarcated with concrete poles, and then planted some trees in the periphery. As you can see, we planted some Polyelthia longifolia or Indian willow trees at the boundary, so that I wanted to use that as a windbreak, because there are a lot of wind, and to protect the plants we had that. And I'll show you how it looks now, the Polyelthia or Indian willow. And then the roads were created, and there are a lot of support from the Hambantota district secretariat office, and the man with the long sleeved shirt is the secretary of our ministry, and some people, and the Chandana Kalpuran from UDA, and a few people who helped. And then of course in 2000, we started that in 2006, but in 2008 I realized that you can't do any planting without a electric fence, because there are a lot of elephants and cattle and other animals. So an electric fence was erected in 2006. After even 20 years, still that fence is standing, because usually people say that you can't have these fence, and the elephants will break those and also stories. But this fence is still standing because we maintain. And so we got the people to help, and this is the man whom I selected to be the residential manager, and Sumit Ekanayak, and he did a wonderful job, a young man. And we created, we just cleared some of the thorn scrub, and started with few plant houses and things like that. And then we got water from Baragama Villa, which is a very big lake, in this country we don't have that many lakes, but this Baragama Villa is a lake where the water goes to the sea, and the water is class 1 water. So we got land acquired near the next to that lake, and then I constructed a small pump house, and then pumped water from that place using some machines brought from Turkey, and then brought them to this tank with a capacity of 255 cubic meters, and watering started with that. And then also I created the staff quarters and things like that, and the roads developed. And there are many plants planted in the arboretum. They all planted, right? Cultivating biodiversity. And then now you see these actually after 4 years now. These are bigger now. So old photos. And then there are several avenues I started with, because if you go to Peradeniya, all the avenues are foreign. Palm avenues, all the Oreodoxa and Royal Palm, Cabbage Palm, Araucaria, all these exotic tree avenues. But all the avenues you have in in Mirajula Gardens, about 20 something avenues, they are all native tree avenues. And then these I think Telugu Avenue, Telugu, and there is a Kong Avenue, this is Moonamal Avenue, this of course Tal Avenue. This is that Polyelthia Avenue which I showed you planted, and it's a beautiful avenue now. And we have golf carts, battery operated, for people to move around. And this is the entrance, and some of you may not recognize these bushes. These are actually sepalika. Right? So people have found a way to trim and prune the sepalika and make them into these nice shapes. And then this is the entrance again with students. This is the main entrance. One entrance. There's another entrance now. A lot of school children come now, even foreigners. This is that Gadol Walla, which is nice lake now, and we have planted some trees and bougainvillea. And then this is one of the avenues, Neem Avenue, and Tal Avenue again, and then few other ornamental areas, shrubberies. And there is a cactus collection, because one day I was in the treasury asking for some funds, and then one of the ladies at the treasury asked me, now we go to Haggala to see roses, Peradini to see orchids, so what can we see in Hambantota? So I was again kind of got a shock, and then I realized that one thing you can say that some dry arid things. So then I told that that we have some cacti and succulents and stuff like that. So we have a cactus collection. So these one of the plants we get in the cactus collection. Many different types of cacti. And also one thing I want to do is to introduce some of the concepts we see in other parts of the country. When we see things in other parts of the country, not copying it just as it is, we can get the concept and reproduce. Now, this is something I did. I got the concept from Versailles. Some of you may have visited Versailles in Paris. This is not exactly Versailles, but I got the concept. So there are formal gardens like that, which are some new experience for local people. And then there are some other places like this, shade houses. These are with creepers, and this whole area, the whole house will be full of flowers in January. This plant brings up very interesting fragrant flowers in January. This is inside of that, and then there are a few other topiaries, and I don't know who they are. I got that from the internet, so people are enjoying. And then there are a few other areas where I see nice areas, and then these are an accidental photo I got while moving, while going through. And some people, some students actually, when they saw this, they just went there and sat, and they even had some kind of discussion with their teachers. But this is a real story where we see the final year students of Peradeniya University Botany Department. There are two professors here, Professor Gunaratna and Professor Perera. So they have come for a field excursion, and they are using this facility. So those people are using it, and also there are other services we are providing for the floriculture industry, training people on floriculture, foliage plants. There are other interesting areas. There are different avenues, and then there's a tunnel of Malittang or Saladora persica. It's about 150 meters or so. It's a kind of a tunnel where you can go through and have a nice experience. I think this is also one of the avenues. And then we have these kind of battery operated buses also for people to move around. Beautiful flowers, and get school children, and there's a plant house inside. So people go and enjoy, and inside we have several plants that are normally found in the wet zone also, ferns and other things in the plant house. This inside view of the plant house. And of course now the trend is a lot of people come and do their pre-shoots, weddings and other things, and there are several films also. 2-3 weeks back I found a nice advertisement of a film coming soon with two famous actors, and that was filmed in Hambantota. So and there are beautiful trees like the beautiful flowering shrubs like this korakaha, cacti, anthuriums, foliage, and all sorts of new things, and then also plant houses with mist irrigation and all that, and orchids. So so you might ask, so where the biodiversity? So biodiversity is also there, but we have to attract, we have to get people. These have to be sustainable. To attract people, you have to have beautiful stuff. So the flowers and all the landscape and all the other things are there to attract the visitors. And then only you can do our science stuff behind the scene. I always say that the Botanic Gardens is like a medicine, I mean the tablet. So in a tablet, you have different colors or sugar coating outside, but the medicine is inside. So the medicine is the botany part, but we have to have some that color sugar, otherwise people won't be able to gulp it. So you can't drink it or have it unless it's beautiful. So in the gardens we do that all the time, right? So our gardens are profitable. I don't know the story now, but when I left, our expenditure was about 200 million, and my income was nearly 900 million. Right? So we are, even now I think, we are running at a profit. We don't want to publicize that too much, but we are profitable enterprises. That is because we get people, and we do various services, and we sell plants, and we do various services, and we have to be sustainable. Even the place I am working now, some of you may have visited, I invite the trust to make a trip again. I think they have already visited Popum Arboretum, and after I took over, there is a 90 times increase of the income. So and it's self-sustaining. All the salaries are paid by the money we generate, and you can make it like that. So there are so many things that we have to do, but then whatever enterprise you do, always you have to keep in mind that it has to be sustainable. To be sustainable, we have to follow certain tricks. So we are doing that. So next comes the other place where we cultivate biodiversity, and that is Sitawaka. I think once I took people around, and some of you may have visited, because one of the other floristic regions is Ratnapura Rakwana area, close to the Singaraja. So we talk about diversity in the wet zone, mid-country wet zone, and other areas, but the diversity you get in Singaraja type areas, there should be a place to conserve that kind of diversity. Because now you can't conserve all the plants in the country in Peradeniya, or you can't conserve all the plants in Haggala or Gampa, right? Because the plants in Ratnapura, Singaraja, Rakwana, Kanneliya, Nakayadeniya, those areas are different. If you try to take those plants and conserve them in Peradeniya, you are not doing justice for them. Now it's like my example is, you might not agree with me, it's like trying to conserve Vedda and take a Vedda and keep him in Nurali. Can you imagine Vedda in Nurali? Bare-bodied and with the axe and all that in the cold weather. So it won't be real Vedda, you see in Nurali. Vedda should be conserved in Daman or any other area close to his hometown, native habitat. So similarly, plants of Singaraja should be conserved in an area close to Singaraja or Ratnapura. So Sitawaka or Avisavelu was selected for that. And then we selected 105 acres, an area of 105. That, don't forget that we are talking about Colombo district. Right? So getting an area of 105 acres in Colombo district, I think it's a big achievement. So I was lucky to get that area. And in that area, about 7.5 acres was tea land. So I thought, okay, nothing doing. Keep the tea land as it is, and you can use that also as an educational thing. So there was about 5 acre Kirakotu, but all these are intact. So it's a wet country. As you can see, the rainfall is almost high, except in January and February. Rest of the month is very wet. So this is how it looked in 2000. Now we started Hambantota in 2006, and this was in 2008, 2 years after. And this is how it looked. It's a LRC land, by the way, 105 acres. This is just a marshy area, and we thought of converting that into in fact, that idea I also got from Sheffield Park. I saw a nice garden and nice during the autumn time, in the fall colors. Sheffield Park, there is actually mostly a series of water bodies. So I thought of converting this also something like that. So I converted this by digging without passing through the hard pan, because that is a mistake a lot of people did. Even our friends, when during their first term, they had this Dahasak wave program, and they did a mess out of it because they went past the hard pan and no water was retained. So you have to stop at the hard pan and then only, you know, fill the area. So I just got the hard pan, measured, and then dug it using. There were no engineers involved. So I did it, and so that was the lake. Now there are about 3 such lakes in Avisaveli. By the way, before I forget, I must tell you that although Peradeniya Gardens is covered by the river Mahaveli from 3 sides, not a single drop of water is taken from Mahaveli for watering. Even Haggala Gardens, no municipal water. Municipal water is not used in both of, for drinking we get municipal water, but for watering, all the water comes in Haggala from Haggala mountain, and for Peradeniya Gardens from Hantana, right? Gravity water. Nothing from Mahaveli. So similarly, Avisavel, all the water, even drinking, comes from Indikata mountain. So that lake is like this now, beautiful. 2 places, visitor center and cafeteria, and a lot of people come and enjoy because it's close to Colombo, and many places. And also there's another area which I thought of converting. This is actually a bit similar. When I visited that place originally, when I saw these trees, I thought this is something like Keukenhof in Amsterdam, near Amsterdam, a beautiful tulip garden. It's not exactly the same thing. I thought not to include any tulip, any colorful plants, but just greenery. So I dug the canals and things like this, and then converted it to something like this. So it's not Keukenhof because there are no colors, but just the greenery with the water and all that. It's a very popular place, and then there are 4 or 5 films shot there, and there are teledramas and all sorts of things they do. And it's like if you go during a weekend, you see it's almost like Second World War because all the drones are going here and there and taking film. This filming they do, wedding free shoots. A lot of people come and then enjoy. It's a popular place. Nice area for people. It's beautiful, and because of that, I don't know whether it's a good thing or bad thing. A lot of people come for various commercial filming, weddings and other things also. And then, as I mentioned, there are several feature films produced there. I got one here. This is actually the famous actor Ranjan Ramanayake in one of the movies. There are not only this, there are so many films, and this is another one where you see Hemal Ranasinghe, the same place. So there are so many films shot there, and then people come and enjoy. And then they also learn unconsciously also by going through the places and reading the plant names and all that. It's like what they call education by stealth. So it's important, and also a lot of studies are done by University of Colombo. We are conducting some classes, and they do their own research. And if you go during a weekend, you see it's full of, the car park is full, and people come and enjoy. And in fact, if you look at the visitor figures of last year, see, you get this Avisavela gets more visitors than Gampaha Gardens. And even foreigners, of course, again, we see out of those Gampaha, Mirijula and Sitawaka, Avisavela, Mirijula gets more foreigners than Gampaha, Sitawaka. So like that, there are a lot of visitors, and they come, and it's sustainable. And then all this at the same time we maintain. We actually I told you about that plant Horaval in Walavata Vaturana, which is only found in that area. So ideally, Sitawaka is an ideal site for that, and we are planting this Valawata Vaturana point endemic Horval in Sitawa. So like that there are ex situ conservation practices, activities going on also, and then students are learning, and there are various classes conducted for butterflies and various other things, birds, and it's close to Colombo, and you can have a nice environment. And they are also, I asked them, I don't know whether they will follow it or not, don't use it as a typical stereotypical botanical gardens with all the avenues and flower beds and this and that. Make it as a natural place so that people can enjoy and relax and learn. So that is what I was going to tell you. It's not very complicated and simple presentation, but I think it's a kind of hard work to cultivate biodiversity. Thank you. Ganewata is a medicinal garden, medicinal plant garden. Management is under the Department of National Botanic Gardens. It's about 52 or something acres, and half of that is a coconut plantation. The other half is medicinal trees mostly, and there's a collection of nelly and vanilla and few other economically important medicinal plants as well. So I think it's a unique place. Started during the time of Mr. G. Mejayavira, the first Sri Lankan superintendent, and a lot of people visit. And now we have started to cultivate herbs also there, and mostly people studying Ayurveda medicine in Mikamachi and various other indigenous medicine universities. They come, and general public also come. Not that many, but people come.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I have to say that I was very fortunate to be able to visit what you have created in Hambantota because the entire surrounding area is a sort of a semi-desert. And when I visited this place, I was so amazed by what you have created there. It's an absolutely fantastic place, and I don't know how many of you have visited the place. I would highly recommend that you do because not only the types of plants that you have grown there, but also the aesthetic layout of the place was absolutely fantastic. And I think in terms of botanic gardens, Peradeniya doesn't have that expanse that you have in Hambantota. And also I think the display of local trees that you have in those separate avenues was extremely impressive. And also I was quite impressed by the fact that all the heads of state who came for the Commonwealth Heads of State meeting in Sri Lanka have planted a tree there, and there is that Commonwealth Circle which is there to be seen. But something that disappointed me, if I'm just trying to bring it to your attention, that I noticed that in certain areas, there were, because the person who was taking us round said that there was a proposal to develop so many other sections, but those things seem to have sort of halted. And I asked why that is happening. So the person said, well, at the moment we are not getting the funds. So I am just bringing that to your notice. I'm sure you are aware of it. But I think it's a wonderful place, and congratulations to you for that extremely beautiful creation you have done, and also the thoughtfulness that has gone into the planning and the execution of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. One of the things I must mention is that after the British created Peradeniya, Kaggara and Gampaha, the next most significant creation by way of a garden is that of Jeffrey Bawa's Lunuganga, right? I'm sure everybody knows about it, and there's a lot of publicity, and even people studying landscape architecture in Moratuwa, they are taken there, and a lot of attention, and is highlighted a lot. But unfortunately, except for a few of you, no one talks about Hambantota or Isavilla. I'm not saying that you should forget about Dunuganga and talk about Hambantota. I'm not saying that. But I think one of the reasons why people don't talk about those things is that still some people think that it's a political venture. That's very wrong. There's no such thing. No political intervention whatsoever. And during my 35 years of career, not a single politician influenced me, because the way I handled, no one interviewed me in anything. So I was given freedom to do the way I to do my things, and I was so fortunate in that sense. And there's nothing political, but a lot of people think that it's another political venture. That's why people don't pay that much of attention. But that Commonwealth thing also is a very interesting thing, because I tell you how it happened. One day, this will also, I don't know, maybe counterproductive when I say this. When when the incumbent president at that time was walking inside the Botanic Gardens Peradeniya, I was just taking him around, and he was there in the morning just walking, and then he was walking around the memorial circle, the great circle, where you see different heads of state planted trees, and that was in 2011 or 2012 or something like that, about 2 years before the Chogam. And then while going through, I told him that so this is one planted by president of whatever country, or this India, Sri Lanka, England and all that, and I told that now in 2013 we are having this Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting. So if we take them to Hambantota and get all the 54 heads of state to plant trees, in one go we can have 54 memorial trees. And he's also a person of that kind. So he said, wonderful idea, I'll put that to the agenda. And I never thought that it would materialize. So that was taken to the agenda, inserted in the agenda, and all the people the heads of governments came and planted trees. Even the Prince of Wales was to come, but then there are some other issues, which I can tell you personally if you want to listen to that. He didn't come, but the rest of the heads came, and because of that reason, I didn't have to spend a single cent to have an opening ceremony. That opening ceremony was that. So that was also borne by the Chogam funds. So one go, opening and planting. That was the biggest planting ceremony ever organized, with 54 heads of state.
Thank you. Excuse me, sir. Thank you. You are grateful session. I want to something about your garden. I seen their picture. Some you told about sustainable road construction, but they are building construction in the road construction, that cement block inside the road, but not sustainability, that cement block road. But they want to use something about some terracotta, same like some material, sustainable material ought to use. Example that now they are using Anuradhapura Sri Mahabodhi road, some terracotta road. You seen same like road, I think better for the future generation for the sustainability construction. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, thank you. Actually, we were trying to use a different material, something similar, not exactly terracotta, but there are certain material that you can use as surfacing, not cement, not tar, but some material, sort of brownish material, and in fact, yeah, so there was a company who specializes on that, and they even did a sample, but somehow we couldn't proceed with that because there were other issues also. But this terracotta thing, I think it's a long, I mean, a lot of controversial things that we should not discuss here, because that Srimabodhi terracotta, we should not confuse that with this thing. But the interlock rope, there is terracotta or otherwise, there are two things. One is that about 40% of the water gets absorbed, get percolated. So that is the reason why they use this. Interlock, and yeah, concrete interlock. Many of the roads, yeah, the water gets percolated, but 40% goes down. But if it is just tar, it's just runoff. So there are some good reasons. I mean, merits and demerits of both. But in this country, unfortunately, we don't have a proper surface material for the roads.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much for the lecture. I mean, it gives us a really interesting aspect of the two sides of these gardens. So I'm quite interested in the comment you made that there is a botanical side on this, and the conservation of plants, which is, I think, the most important part. And then you said we have to have the Sinibola thing which attracts the tourists. So is there a kind of with your experience, is there a way of minimizing the Sinibola part and increasing the botanical aspect so that people also learn more about the plants and you can kind of create the right balance? So the question is, what would you say is the right balance? Is it like 10%, or, I mean, what would give you the best way to promote the scientific side along?
If it is a percentage-wise allocation, I would go for 80% science and 20% Sinibola. But that question implies that you think it's more Sinibola than science, right? Yeah, that's the thing. It depends. If you go to Peradeniya, the front part is more Sinibola, but then if you go beyond that, it's more science. The arboretum, the entire thing, science. But Avisavela, mostly science, because only very few areas with some flowers, and you get the scenery and everything there, but that you can't classify as Sinibola. but we try to maintain that balance, in a big way in Avisavela. Hambantota also we try our best because the only thing is that people move around, people mostly frequent. In fact, in Peradeniya, there was a study done by some scientists about the visitations in different parts of the gardens, and they found the highest number of visitors are in the orchid house area and the flower section, and the next highest group in the great lawn. So there are places which are frequented by a large number of people, and those are mostly scenery places. No, I agree. I fully agree with that, because in the morning also I had similar discussion, because it's the duty of the journalists and other educators to educate people, not only just regular general public but even the policymakers. And I remember once I gave a lecture to tourist guides, chauffeur drivers and tourist people. And then I told them about the importance of our diversity and the smuggling of biopiracy and all sort of thing, and don't let your guests to take plants and this and that. And then after the lecture, many of the drivers came to me and told, "Api danne naha sir mehema katawa."
Yeah.
So they didn't know, right? So it's our duty to educate people. And
But
yeah.
even at the park itself, if you give this kind of scientific information, I'm sure it will be really useful for people who visit. Even if they come for photographs and they have learned some facts about something which is very important to our country, then you're kind of promoting the work that you do, the scientific work you do.
Yeah, I fully agree. In fact, we are failing in that for some reason. Now, forget about the gardens. Now, just imagine, many of you have visited the Pinnavela Elephant Orphanage, right? So you go to the Elephant Orphanage and you come out. That's it. And you go and see the elephants bathing. That's all. Then not a single interpretative signage about the elephants and their feeding habits and all the. So there's so many things that you can educate people with if they put up some simple signboards. They don't do that. So there are. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not trying to pass the blame to other party. Even in the Botanic Gardens, we should pay more attention for this interpretative signage and guiding and all sorts of things, so that people could be educated, and maybe a lot of things you can change by doing that. Thank you.
Regarding that point about educating the people who visit these places, I have to say here again, I think in Hambantota you have done an excellent job, because the tour guides who take us around in those buggies, they were very knowledgeable, and they gave us a lot of information about the plants and how it was set up and all of those things. So unfortunately, I don't think there are people like that in Peradeniya who take visitors around. But I think that's something that perhaps for people who are interested, who want to hire a tour guide, something like that could be introduced.
Professor, first of all, let me thank you for the beautiful presentation. Learned a lot. In January, with one of your students, Rose Veerasinghe, I was at Mirichavilla, and it was really amazing experience. But discussing with her, like, we felt that it's not maintained at the level that it should be. We felt a little bit sad. And also we in the plant nursery, they were kind of propagating and selling all alien species, whereas they can start and try to promote more native plants. So we did tell some of the staff about it and all that. So that's about Mirichavilla. Sitavaka, I haven't been yet, I have to. Actually, my question is, when you talk about alien species, then there are invasives and naturalized plants. Where do you kind of draw the line and decide that this is naturalized, it's not invasive? I'm also thinking of like lantana and several other species. Where do you draw the line? How do you distinguish those? Thank you.
There are several definitions for invasive alien species. So IAS, invasive alien species. By CBD definition is that if a plant is a plant which is originated outside a particular area, interfering or disturbing or damaging the local biodiversity, that is considered as an alien invasive species, right? So there are native species and also naturalized native species. Forget about native species. Some naturalized species which are there, but they don't harm our diversity. They don't interfere or they don't destroy our native species or native biodiversity. As
Can
long
you
as
give some examples?
now, if you take puak, right, or some plants that you find in your home garden and even by roadsides, there are some naturalized plants, but they don't harm the natural vegetation. But this lantana, invasive species, which was brought in the 1860s, not by the botanical gardens. I don't know who brought it, and now it's doing a lot of damages to the native biodiversity. One other thing, we talk about alien invasive species, right? There are some endemic species which are also harming the native diversity. So we can't call them invasive species. So because by definition, to be invasive, if you use IAS, they have to be alien. So they are not alien. They are from the same ecosystem, but they destroy the rest of the biodiversity. Best example is normal butter. You know these butter plants, butter in the wet zone. So butter is becoming very seriously aggressive in the wet zone, in Pilikuttua, in the Kadamukalana, Vaga and that area. So butter is spreading. And also in Horton Plains, there is a native endemic bamboo species that's also spreading and destroying the native grass species and all that. So that is because due to climate change, some of the bamboo species and some of the grass species are now their reproductive rate and their growth rate and everything is now enhanced because of the climate change. So there are a lot of things happening because of these extreme weather events. So it does, not necessarily all invasives are sorry, there are some local invasives also. So it's very, very critical situation, because now we talk about endangered plants, right? Threatened plants, extinct, whatever, right? Rarity, and that is one extreme. And the other extreme is invasiveness, that is abundance. You have more domineering, right? So I see it as two ends of the same thing. One thing is that you have more plant and destroy, and then the other extreme is less, and then you get some plants extinct also. So that is the interesting thing, because both happens due to some factors. If there are factors which control the spread of plants, the plants will become rare, and then some may even become extinct. But then if there are factors which let them grow more or expand, then that will become invasive. So this is actually kind of paradox. I even have a paper on that. Two extremes of that, invasiveness and also the rarity.
Are there any other questions? I want to ask a question. Now, a lot of plants are going extinct, right? But we have a fair amount of biodiversity. How much of new species are evolving and adding to the number of species? Is the number of extinctions more than the number of new species, because then finally we'll have a smaller number of biodiversity.
Yeah, unfortunately, rate of extinction is higher than the rate of speciation. That is the most unfortunate thing, because to speciate, because speciation is a process. It actually is a very, very millions of years. But then extinction, it doesn't take much time. I mean, maybe some weather event. Or now, say for example, now say this Ditwa. If you talk about this point endemic, say it is Asokapethia habitat, and if that fish is found in only particular area, and that area is all got landslide and affected, that's it. So these kind of things can happen.
Do you get any? Do you coordinate with a place like Kew Gardens in London, which is exquisite gardens? Whether you gain any knowledge and information and exchange with them about plants and landscaping and all that? Do you have any contact?
Yeah, well, we have contacts, informal of course. We get sometimes, people from Q, and we send, communications and get support from Q in various ways. But earlier, the contacts were more. I remember when I was appointed, actually those days our positions were gazetted, and we apply, and when we were selected, our letter comes by registered post to our house. Not any ceremonies or anything. So in the gazette notification, there was a condition. The selected candidate should be prepared to go and spend 1 year at Royal Botanic Gardens Kew and follow a training program. That was a condition, and I also had to undergo that, because that was a condition. And the funding came from the Colombo plan. And then there were so many very close links with Kew those days, because I was also trained at Kew, and the person who came after me also got his training at Kew, but then after that it ended, because Colombo plan packed up and everything ended. And now we have informal contacts from time to time. Even about 2 months back, we had a famous scientist and conducted a workshop, and we have our personal links. So there are things like that, but no formal links, unfortunately.
Any other questions? We invite you to become a member of the National Trust and help protect our nation's heritage. Membership offers valuable benefits, including discounted books, purchases, and priority bookings at heritage tours. He would also remind members to renew your subscriptions. I have to thank the speaker for the only non-white elephant thing in Hambantota, which is making money.